So I kind of want to move towards kind of more what's happening to you. And there was actually this story that I noticed a few days ago, and it's talking about there was a man in Georgia who was sentenced to 1,000 years in prison for child porn, who was recently paroled after serving just 7 years for his crimes. And so my question for you is, like, why do you think the media is so loud when it comes to your alleged crimes in this witch hunt, yet they barely are saying a word when there's a man who did some unspeakable acts to children and he's being released?
Well, I mean, the real question, of course, is the unequal treatment. In other words, I went through this Soviet-style show trial in Washington. The trial was rigged start to finish. I was specifically prohibited by the judge from raising any of the most important and powerful arguments. I was prevented by the judge from entering into evidence, some of the most important evidence. But it didn't matter because I had a stacked jury that was comprised 100% with people who hate Donald Trump and were actually politically active or alumni of the previous administrations of Obama or Clinton. Mm-hmm. And on top of all that, they still had to cheat because the jury forewoman got caught red-handed when we learned after the trial that in 2019, starting on the day I was arrested, she had been attacking me on both Facebook and Twitter, as well as attacking Donald Trump. Now, you'll read constantly that we argued that her opposition to Trump was a demonstration of bias, and the judge ruled against us. But that's not even what we argued. We argued that her attacks on me, the defendant, were the proof of bias. But you'll never read that hardly anywhere. Mm-hmm. And the judge's ruling not to give me a new trial, declare a mistrial, she'll lose on appeal. There's very little question about it. The U.S. Supreme Court, very clear that every defendant is entitled to an impartial and indifferent jury. There's nothing indifferent or impartial about this woman. She hated my guns. Mm-hmm. She also hated Trump. And it is important because she said, for example, all of Donald Trump's supporters are racist. Well, that's an attack on me. Mm-hmm. That's just one of the many examples of what was wrong with the trial. But the prosecutors defrauded the court on a number of issues, just made filings that were not true. But most interestingly, the very first thing that happened was a motion by the government under seal that said that Stone cannot raise the misconduct of the Office of Special Counsel, the FBI, the Department of Justice, or any member of Congress in his defense. In other words, they knew they were dirty. Why would you raise that if there was no misconduct to raise? Mm-hmm. The judge prohibited me from raising those issues. That's clearly unconstitutional under Kyles v. Whitley, which specifically says the investigation and prosecution of a defendant is always a reasonable grounds to be raised in defense. Pardon me. The integrity of the investigation and indictment of any defendant is always a reasonable grounds for defense. There it is in a sentence. Mm-hmm. So it was entirely rigged. The charges against me are absurd because they charged me with after leaking for 16 months that I would be charged with treason, espionage, conspiracy against the United States, money laundering millions of dollars, mail fraud, wire fraud.
Basically everything they can come up with.
Stolen emails. They ended up fabricating a lying to Congress charge. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that is to violate the False Statements Act, which is what I'm charged with, mm-hmm. The misstatement has to be material. In other words, it has to matter. And you have to have the intent. Well, if it didn't matter, what would be your intent? I mean, yeah, I forgot an email between Steve Bannon and I in which we discussed an article in that morning's Washington Post. And the significance is what? It's an absurdity. But that's all they could come up with after going through every square inch of my life, going through all my emails, all my text messages, all my phone calls for a 3-year period. Mm-hmm. Really 19 of my current or former associates before the grand jury. And they came up with this. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's very unfortunate, that we're in this situation in the United States, that this can happen to any of our citizens. And you you've been charged with some things that are obviously phony. Like the whole reason that they're investigating this Russia probe is phony, isn't it? There's nothing really behind it. They haven't found anything in the years that they've been investigating it.
Well, in my case, they opened the investigation into me 3 months after they already knew there was no Russian collusion, which proves on the face of it that this was a politically motivated and malicious.
What kind of a toll has this Mueller investigation had on you and your family, and do you believe that you're going to be set free from this nightmare at some point?
Well, it is, as you know, the federal government wins 99% of their prosecutions. Most citizens are so overwhelmed by the expense and the debilitating nature of trying to defend themselves that they just plead guilty to things that they didn't really do.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to do that, and I've, first of all, been destroyed financially, lost everything, my house, my car, what little savings I had,
Mm-hmm.
my insurance, but the gag order placed on me made it impossible to make a living. I mean, I make a living by speaking and writing, but I was prevented from speaking and writing about the only things that people wanted to hear from me, specifically. So, I'm living in a one-bedroom unit with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I have put most of the stuff that I own in storage. I had to sell a lot of it to pay my lawyers. We had 2 cars. We kept the one that is 18 years old. We sold the one that was 2 years old. It's a struggle to pay the rent and for utilities, gasoline, groceries, medical expenses. My legal defense has cost $2 million already. I have filed 2 very strong appeals. One, the appeal of my conviction. Second, the appeal of the judge's ruling that I was not entitled to a new trial. That will be another $1 million before we get there. But the problem is that the appeal will take a year. And I can't tell you that I will be alive in a year, because even though it is the policy of the Justice Department and the policy of the U.S. Bureau of Prisons for inmates convicted of nonviolent offenses to be moved from incarceration to home confinement, like, say, Michael Avenatti,
Mm-hmm.
or Michael Cohen, or one of the witnesses who perjured himself at my trial, Rick Gates.
Yeah.
That policy, according to them, does not apply to Roger Stone. And therefore, the judge, ignoring all of my medical history, ignoring the precedent in her own court circuit and in every other circuit in the United States, essentially ignored our arguments and put me under immediate house confinement, which is where I am right now, under house arrest,
Mm-hmm.
and ordered that I show up at a prison where the Bureau of Prisons insists there are no COVID-19 cases, but the prison guards union and a number of inmates, families, insist there is. This is not confined to this one prison in Georgia. There's a national scandal brewing regarding the Bureau of Prisons underreporting coronavirus infections.
Definitely.
So it's a death sentence. And that's precisely the idea. If my case ever gets to a hearing, the appeal is heard a year from now, the epic corruption of the judge and the jury forewoman and the prosecutors will be fully exposed. The judge has been able to seal everything to hide the facts of my trial, but once it goes to the appeals court, she no longer has the power to do that. That's why they want to Epstein me right now. That's what I'm fighting.
Yep.
The president has said this several times. I think Roger Stone has a good chance to be exonerated. He's right. I do. But I have to live long enough for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Did they give like a bogus reason as to why the rules don't apply to
No, they
you?
didn't even bother. Their reason was as follows. Because we say so, that's why.